It was a quiet night at the Deep Space Monitoring Station in New Mexico. The huge satellite dishes pointed at the stars, listening for any signs of activity in the vast emptiness of space. Inside the control room, Sarah Johnson sipped her coffee and watched the screens, not expecting anything unusual. Suddenly, a loud beep broke the silence. Sarah sat up straight, her eyes wide. One of the screens was flashing red. She called out to her colleague, "Tom, come look at this." Tom rushed over, his face showing surprise. "What is it, Sarah?" "I'm not sure," she said, typing quickly on her keyboard. "But it's like nothing we've ever seen before." The signal was strange. It didn't match any known patterns from Earth or space objects they knew about. It was clear and strong, coming from somewhere far beyond their solar system. "Should we call Dr. Martinez?" Tom asked, his voice shaking a little. Sarah nodded. "Yes, get her here now. This could be big." Within an hour, the station was buzzing with activity. Dr. Elena Martinez, the head scientist, stood in front of a room full of experts. Her face was serious as she spoke. "Ladies and gentlemen, we have received a signal from deep space. It's not random noise. It's a message. We believe it's from an alien civilization." The room erupted in excited whispers. Dr. Martinez held up her hand for quiet. "We need to decode this message. It could be the most important discovery in human history." For the next few days, the best code breakers and linguists from around the world worked nonstop. They used powerful computers and their own brains to try and understand the alien language. Finally, on the fourth day, a young scientist named Raj burst into Dr. Martinez's office. "We've done it," he shouted, waving a piece of paper. "We've decoded the message." Dr. Martinez took the paper with shaking hands. As she read it, her face turned pale. "Oh my God," she whispered. The message was a distress call. A fleet of alien ships was stranded in space, their engines dead. Their life support systems were failing. They were asking for help from anyone who could hear them. Within hours, the news spread around the world. TV shows, social media, and newspapers talked about nothing else. People were excited, scared, and curious all at once. World leaders met in an emergency session at the United Nations. They had to decide, should Earth respond to the alien call for help? Some leaders were afraid. What if it's a trick? They asked. What if the aliens want to invade us? Others were more hopeful. This could be our chance to make friends with beings from another world. They said, we can't ignore their cry for help. The debate went on for days. Meanwhile, scientists worked hard to learn more about the alien fleet. They found out that the ships were about halfway between Earth and Alpha Centauri, the nearest star system to our own. Finally, after a week of arguments, the world leaders made a decision. They would respond to the alien message and offer help. Dr. Martinez was chosen to send the reply. With cameras from all over the world watching, she sat down at a special computer. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard for a moment. Then, taking a deep breath, she began to type. "Greetings from the people of Earth," the message began. "We have heard your call for help, and we are ready to assist you." As the message was sent out into space, a cheer went up from the crowd watching. It was a historic moment. For the first time, humans were reaching out to alien life. But even as people celebrated, work was already starting on the next big challenge. How could they actually help a stranded alien fleet so far away in space? A team of the world's best engineers, scientists, and astronauts was quickly put together. They had a huge task ahead of them. They needed to figure out how to travel further into space than any human had ever gone before, and how to save a dying alien civilization. As night fell, the team gathered in a big conference room. Maps of stars and diagrams of spaceships covered the walls. They looked at each other, knowing that the fate of two civilizations might rest in their hands. "All right," said the team leader, standing up. "Let's get to work. We have a fleet to save." 2 weeks had passed since Earth sent its response to the alien distress call. The world waited nervously for an answer. Scientists at space stations around the globe worked around the clock, watching for any sign of a reply. On a quiet Tuesday morning, it finally came. Alarms blared at the Deep Space Monitoring Station. Sarah Johnson, who had first detected the alien signal, rushed to her station. Her heart raced as she saw the flashing lights on her screen. "We've got a response," she shouted to her colleagues. Within minutes, the room was packed with excited scientists and officials. Dr. Martinez arrived, her eyes bright with anticipation. "Let's see what they have to say," she said, her voice steady despite her excitement. The team worked quickly to decode the message. As the alien words turned into English on their screens, a hush fell over the room. "Greetings, people of Earth," the message began. "We are the Zarkali. Your offer of help fills us with hope and gratitude." The message went on to explain their situation. The Zarkali were a peaceful race from a distant star system. Their fleet of 50 ships had been on a long journey of exploration when they encountered a strange cosmic storm. The storm had damaged their engines and drained their power sources. Now they were drifting helplessly through space, their life support systems failing. "We have much to share with your species," the message concluded. "But first, we must survive. Can you truly help us?" Dr. Martinez turned to face the room. "Well," she said, "it seems we have our work cut out for us." Over the next few days, Earth and the Zarkali exchanged more messages. Each communication helped bridge the gap between the two civilizations. Humans learned that the Zarkali looked like tall, slender beings with blue skin and large, expressive eyes. The aliens shared images of their ships and details about their technology. But the cultural exchange wasn't always smooth. The Zarkali way of thinking was very different from humans. Their language used complex metaphors that often confused Earth's linguists, and their concept of time was so foreign that it took days just to agree on when events had happened or how long the rescue might take. Despite these challenges, the two species slowly began to understand each other better. The Zarkali shared their vast knowledge of space travel, which amazed Earth's scientists. In return, humans impressed the aliens with their resourcefulness and determination. As the days passed, the situation on the Zarkali ships grew more desperate. Their message became more urgent. "Our youngest and oldest are falling ill. Some ships have lost all power. Please hurry, Earth friends." The pressure on Earth's rescue team intensified. Engineers worked day and night to design ships that could reach the Zarkali fleet. Scientists struggled to find a way to repower the alien vessels. Every hour brought new problems to solve. Meanwhile, on Earth, public opinion was divided. Many people were excited about the idea of meeting aliens and wanted to help. They organized rallies and fundraisers to support the rescue mission. But others were afraid. What if the aliens bring diseases? They asked. What if they try to conquer us once they're here? Protests sprang up in many cities, with people demanding that Earth abandon the rescue plan. World leaders tried to calm the public's fears. They assured people that every precaution would be taken. But as the debate raged on, precious time was slipping away. In a high-security lab, Dr. Yuki Tanaka, Earth's leading expert on energy systems, had a breakthrough. She burst into a meeting of the rescue committee, her lab coat fluttering behind her. "I found a way," she announced breathlessly. "We can repower their ships." The room erupted in cheers. It was the first real hope they'd had in weeks. But Dr. Tanaka's face remained serious. "There's a catch," she said, silencing the room. "To make this work, we'll need a material that's incredibly rare. We have only a small amount on Earth. Using it means sacrificing some of our own important projects." The committee members looked at each other, the weight of the decision heavy on their shoulders. They knew that whatever choice they made would change the course of human history forever. As they debated, a new message arrived from the Zarkali fleet. It was short, but it chilled everyone who read it. "Time is running out. Please hurry." The fate of an entire alien civilization now rested in humanity's hands. The question was, what would they decide to do? The world held its breath as the rescue committee made its decision. After hours of intense debate, they emerged with their answer. Earth would use its rare resources to save the Zarkali. "We choose to help," announced the committee leader on global television. "Because that's what makes us human." With the decision made, the real work began. The best minds from around the world gathered in a hastily built command center in Houston, Texas. Engineers, scientists, and strategists worked side by side, racing against time to save an alien civilization. Dr. Yuki Tanaka led the team working on the power problem. They had to figure out how to use Earth's limited supply of the rare material to recharge the Zarkali ships. In a corner of the lab, she stood before a whiteboard covered in complex equations. "If we can create a device to amplify the material's energy output," she explained to her team, "we might have enough to power all 50 ships." Across the room, a group of aerospace engineers huddled around a 3D model of a new spacecraft. This ship would need to travel faster and farther than any human vessel before it. "We'll need to break all kinds of records," said Chief Engineer Marcus Wong, his eyes gleaming with excitement. "But I think we can do it." As the technical teams worked on the how, another group tackled the who. Selecting a crew for this mission was no easy task. They needed people who were not just skilled, but also brave enough to face the unknown. Colonel Sarah Hawkins, a decorated astronaut, was chosen to lead the mission. As she looked at the list of volunteers, she felt a mix of pride and worry. "These people are willing to risk everything to save a species they've never even met," she said to her deputy. "It's inspiring and terrifying." While the rescue plan took shape on Earth, regular communication with the Zarkali continued. The aliens shared more about their culture and history, fascinating Earth's scientists and public alike. One day, the Zarkali sent an unexpected message. "We wish to share a gift," it said. Attached was a set of instructions for a new type of medical device. Dr. Elena Martinez studied the plans with growing excitement. This could revolutionize how we treat diseases," she gasped. "They're giving us technology that's centuries ahead of ours." The gift from the Zarkali changed things. Those who had been against the rescue mission began to see the potential benefits of helping the aliens. Support for the mission grew stronger every day. But not everything was going smoothly. As the launch date approached, problems kept popping up. A key component of the new spacecraft failed during testing. The device to amplify the rare material's energy wasn't working as well as hoped. Tension in the command center was high. People worked around the clock, snatching sleep when they could. Arguments broke out as stress levels rose. In the midst of this chaos, an unlikely hero emerged. Jun Kim, a quiet software engineer, had been working on the communication systems. One night, while everyone else was focused on the big problems, he made a breakthrough. "I found a way to boost our signal," he announced, his voice rising above the noise of the center. "We can talk to the Zarkali in real time now." This was a game changer. With instant communication, Earth and the Zarkali could work together to solve problems. The aliens' advanced knowledge, combined with human creativity, led to rapid progress. As the final days before launch arrived, excitement built around the world. People gathered in cities and towns, their eyes turned to the sky. This mission would be humanity's greatest adventure yet. In Houston, Colonel Hawkins addressed her crew one last time before they boarded the spacecraft. "What we're about to do has never been done before," she said, her voice steady and strong. "We're not just saving lives. We're making history. We're showing the universe what humanity is capable of." The crew members nodded, their faces a mix of determination and awe. They knew the dangers they faced, but they also knew the importance of their mission. As they walked towards the spacecraft, cheers erupted from the crowd of workers and families gathered to see them off. The hopes of two civilizations rested on their shoulders. Inside the command center, Dr. Martinez watched the final preparations on a big screen. She thought back to that quiet night when they first received the alien signal. So much had changed since then. "Good luck," she whispered as the countdown began. "And Godspeed." The fate of the Zarkali, and perhaps the future of humanity, now depended on the success of this mission. The greatest rescue attempt in history was about to begin. The roar of engines filled the air as the rescue ship, named Hope, lifted off from Earth. Colonel Sarah Hawkins and her crew of 12 felt the intense pressure as they were pushed back into their seats. Through the viewport, they watched their home planet grow smaller and smaller. "All systems are go," reported the pilot, Major Tom Chen. "We are on course for the Zarkali fleet." As Earth disappeared from view, the reality of their mission sank in. They were heading into deep space, farther than any human had ever traveled before. The journey would take 3 weeks, thanks to the new faster-than-light drive developed for this mission. But even with this incredible speed, the crew knew they had no time to waste. Every moment counted for the stranded aliens. Life aboard the Hope quickly fell into a routine. The crew worked in shifts, constantly monitoring the ship's systems and practicing for their rescue operation. They also spent hours each day in communication with the Zarkali, learning more about the aliens they were going to save. Through these talks, the humans discovered that the Zarkali were not so different from them. They had families, dreams, and fears. They told stories of their home world, a planet with purple skies and floating cities. The crew listened in wonder, their excitement growing with each new detail. But the journey was not without its challenges. On the 5th day, a minor radiation leak in the engine room caused panic. Engineer Zoe Patel worked frantically to fix it, her hands steady despite the danger. "If we can't repair this," she said through gritted teeth, "we'll have to turn back." For tense hours, the crew waited as Zoe and her team worked. Finally, with a cheer of triumph, they announced the leak was sealed. The mission could continue. As they passed the halfway point of their journey, the psychological toll began to show. Being confined in the ship, surrounded by the emptiness of space, was hard on everyone. Arguments broke out over small things. Some crew members had trouble sleeping. Dr. Maya Singh, the ship's psychologist, worked overtime to keep everyone's spirits up. She organized game nights and encouraged the crew to share stories from home. Slowly, the tension eased, and the team grew closer. On the 18th day of their journey, something unexpected happened. The ship's long-range sensors picked up a strange reading. "Captain, you need to see this," called out the sensor operator, Lisa Kwong. Her voice was filled with awe and a hint of fear. Colonel Hawkins floated over to the sensor station. On the screen was an image that took her breath away. A massive structure, clearly not natural, floated in space ahead of them. "What is that?" she whispered. No one had an answer. It wasn't the Zarkali fleet. They were still days away from that location. This was something else entirely. The crew debated what to do. Should they stop to investigate, or continue on their urgent mission? In the end, Colonel Hawkins made the tough call. "We stick to the plan," she announced. "The Zarkali need us. We can't afford any delays." As they passed by the mysterious structure, the crew couldn't help but wonder. What other wonders and dangers were waiting for them out here in the depths of space? The last few days of the journey were filled with nervous excitement. The crew made final preparations, checking and rechecking their equipment. The device they would use to repower the Zarkali ships was their most precious cargo. If it failed, all would be lost. Finally, on the 21st day, Major Chen's voice crackled over the intercom. "Zarkali fleet detected on long-range sensors. We're approaching the target area." The crew rushed to the viewports. At first, they saw nothing but stars. Then, slowly, small points of light appeared, growing larger as they approached. The Zarkali ships. As Hope drew closer, the true scale of the alien fleet became clear. The ships were enormous, far larger than anything humans had ever built. But they were dark, drifting lifelessly in space. Colonel Hawkins opened a channel to Earth. Her voice was solemn as she spoke. "Houston, We have visual contact with the Zarkeli fleet, beginning rescue operations now. On Earth, in homes, and public squares around the world, people held their breath. The moment they had all been waiting for had finally arrived. Back on the Hope, Colonel Hawkins turned to her crew. Their faces showed a mix of determination and fear. They all knew that the real challenge was just beginning. "All right, team," she said, her voice steady. "Let's go save some aliens." With that, the Hope moved towards the silent Zarkeli ships, ready to make first physical contact with an alien species. The most critical part of their mission was about to begin, and the fate of two civilizations hung in the balance. As the human ship Hope approached the massive Zarkeli fleet, the crew's excitement turned to shock. The alien ships were in worse condition than they had imagined. Many were dark and lifeless, while others flickered with weak emergency lights. "My God," whispered Colonel Hawkins, "we might be too late for some of them." But there was no time to waste. The rescue teams sprang into action. They had practiced this moment countless times, but now the stakes were real. Major Chen skillfully maneuvered Hope alongside the largest Zarkeli ship. With a hiss of hydraulics, the airlock extended, seeking to make contact with the alien vessel. "Seal is good," reported Zopatul, the chief engineer. "We're ready to board." Colonel Hawkins led the first team across. As the airlock opened, they found themselves face to face with the Zarkeli for the first time. The aliens were tall and slender, with shimmering blue skin and large, expressive eyes. Despite their weakened state, they regarded the humans with wonder and gratitude. The Zarkeli leader, a being named Zolar, greeted them. His voice was weak, but filled with hope. "You came," he said simply. "We had almost lost faith." But the reunion was cut short as alarms blared throughout the ship. "Life support is critical in sectors 3 through 7. A Zarkeli technician reported urgently. "We have thousands trapped there." The situation was worse than they had feared. The human team split up, racing against time to stabilize the failing systems. Dr. Maya Singh, working with Zarkeli medical staff, set up emergency care for the weakest aliens. Meanwhile, Zoe Patil and her engineering team began the complex process of connecting the human energy device to the Zarkeli power systems. It was delicate work. One mistake could doom the entire fleet. As hours passed, the rescuers faced challenge after challenge. In one section, Lisa Kwong and Major Chen had to spacewalk to manually override a jammed airlock, risking their lives to save a group of trapped Zarkeli children. On another ship, a power surge nearly caused a catastrophic meltdown. Quick thinking by a young human technician and his Zarkeli counterpart averted disaster at the last second. But for every problem solved, two more seemed to appear. The human team worked tirelessly, pushing themselves to the limit and beyond. They had trained for this, but the reality was far harder than any simulation. 18 hours into the rescue, exhaustion began to take its toll. Mistakes were made. During a crucial power transfer, a human engineer's trembling hands caused a short circuit, plunging an entire ship back into darkness. Colonel Hawkins, seeing her team's fatigue, made a difficult decision. "We need to rest," she announced. 4-hour shifts. I know it's hard, but if we burn out, we can't help anyone." Some protested, wanting to keep working, but they knew she was right. As the first shift went to rest, the others redoubled their efforts. During one of these rest periods, Dr. Singh found herself talking with a group of Zarkeli children. Despite the language barrier, she was struck by their resilience and curiosity. One child handed her a small glowing crystal, a gesture of thanks that brought tears to her eyes. As the rescue entered its second day, there was a breakthrough. Zoe Patel, working non-stop with her Zarkeli colleagues, finally managed to integrate the human energy device with the alien systems. "It's working," she shouted over the comm. Power levels are rising across the fleet. A cheer went up from humans and Zarkeli alike. It wasn't over yet, but for the first time, Victory seemed possible. But their jubilation was short-lived. Just as hope was returning, long-range sensors detected a new threat. A massive solar storm, far larger than the one that had originally stranded the Zarkali, was heading their way. Colonel Hawkins gathered the human and Zarkali leaders. "We have less than 10 hours before that storm hits," she said gravely. "If we're not out of here by then, none of us will survive." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. They had come so far, overcome so much, but now it seemed the universe itself was against them. Zol-R, the Zarkali leader, spoke up. His voice was stronger now, filled with determination. "Then we shall do in 10 hours what we thought would take days," he said. Together, human and Zarkali eyes met around the room. Nods of agreement were exchanged. They had come too far to give up now. As they rushed back to their stations, Colonel Hawkins allowed herself a small smile. Against all odds, humans and aliens were working side by side, racing against time to save both their peoples. The next few hours would determine not just the fate of this mission, but perhaps the future of interstellar relations. The greatest challenge was yet to come. The next few hours were a blur of frantic activity. Humans and Zarkali worked side by side, racing against the clock. The approaching solar storm loomed over them, a deadly threat to both species if they couldn't escape in time. Colonel Hawkins coordinated the efforts from the command center of the largest Zarkali ship. Screens around her showed the status of each vessel in the fleet. Too many were still flashing red, indicating critical problems. "We need more power to the life support systems on ships 7 through 12, she ordered. "Redirect from non-essential systems if you have to." Zoe Patel's voice crackled over the comm. "Colonel, we've got a problem. The energy transfer device is overheating. If we push it any harder, it might explode." Hawkins felt a chill run down her spine. Without that device, they had no hope of saving the entire fleet. She turned to Zol-R, the Zarkali leader. "Any ideas?" Zol-R's large eyes blinked rapidly, a sign of deep thought among his species. "Perhaps, yes, it might work," he muttered. Then, louder, "We have an ancient technology, passed down through generations. We never fully understood it, but it might be the key." He led Hawkins to a sealed chamber deep within the ship. Inside was a softly glowing orb, about the size of a basketball. "This is the heart of Zarka," Zol-R explained. "Legend says it powered our first starships." Dr. Maya Singh, who had followed them, scanned the orb with her instruments. Her eyes widened in amazement. "Colonel, this thing is putting out more energy than anything I've ever seen. If we could harness it." "Do it," Hawkins ordered without hesitation. As Singh and a team of Zarkali scientists worked to integrate the heart of Zarka with their systems, the rest of the fleet continued their desperate preparations. Major Chen coordinated a series of complex maneuvers, positioning the ships for the quickest possible escape once they had power. Lisa Kwong, monitoring the approaching storm, gave regular updates. 7 hours to impact. 6 hours. In the engine room, Zoe Patel worked tirelessly with her Zarkali counterparts. Sweat dripped from her brow as she connected delicate wires and rerouted power conduits. One mistake could doom them all. Suddenly, a shout of triumph echoed through the ship. "It's working." Dr. Singh's voice was filled with excitement. "The heart of Zarka is powering up the fleet." Cheers erupted from humans and Zarkali alike. Ship after ship lit up on the status screens, life support, and engines coming back online. But their joy was short-lived. As the last ship powered up, a violent tremor shook the fleet. Alarms blared. "The storm," Lisa Kwong shouted. "It's accelerating. We have less than an hour." Colonel Hawkins' voice cut through the panic. "All ships, prepare for immediate departure. This is not a drill." As the fleet began to move, a new problem arose. The heart of Zarka, now integrated into their systems, was becoming unstable. Its energy output was fluctuating wildly. Dr. Singh worked frantically to stabilize it, her fingers flying over alien controls. "I need more time," she pleaded. But time was the one thing they didn't have. The edge of the storm was already upon them, battering the outer ships with intense radiation. In that moment of crisis, an unexpected hero emerged. A young Zarkali engineer named Vexor stepped forward. "I can stabilize it," he said, "but the process is dangerous. I may not survive." Before anyone could stop him, Vexor placed his hands directly on the heart of Zarka. Energy crackled around him, lifting him off the ground. His body glowed with an otherworldly light. To everyone's amazement, the heart stabilized. Power flowed smoothly through the fleet. But Vexor collapsed, his life force drained by the alien artifact. As Dr. Singh rushed to help Vexor, Colonel Hawkins gave the order. "All ships, full power to engines. Let's get out of here." The massive fleet began to move, slowly at first, then with increasing speed. They could see the storm behind them, a wall of deadly energy reaching out with tendrils of lightning. Major Chen's voice was tense as he reported, "We're not going to make it. The storm is too fast." Just when all seemed lost, Zolar made a decision. He approached the heart of Zarka, still crackling with energy. "Our ancestors guide us," he murmured, then plunged his hands into the swirling light. A pulse of energy surged through the fleet, propelling them forward at impossible speed. They shot past the reaching tendrils of the storm, out into clear space. They had made it. Against all odds, humans and Zarkeli together had achieved the impossible. As the fleet slowed to a safe cruising speed, Colonel Hawkins looked around the command center. Humans and Zarkeli were hugging, laughing, crying with relief. Zolar, weakened but alive, approached her with a smile. "Colonel," he said, "I believe this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship between our peoples." Hawkins nodded, her eyes shining with emotion and hope for the future. "I believe you're right," she replied. "I believe you're right." The journey back to Earth was filled with a mix of excitement and apprehension. The human rescue team and the Zarkali worked together to repair the damage caused by their narrow escape from the solar storm. As they traveled, they shared stories, knowledge, and culture, forming bonds that transcended their differences. Colonel Sarah Hawkins stood on the bridge of the lead ship, watching the stars streak by. She couldn't help but smile as she saw a human engineer and a Zarkeli scientist huddled over a console, excitedly discussing some new discovery. "It's amazing how far we've come," said Zolar, the Zarkali leader, as he floated up beside her. "A few weeks ago, we were strangers facing death. Now we are friends embarking on a new adventure." Hawkins nodded in agreement. "I think both our peoples will be forever changed by this experience." As Earth came into view, a tense silence fell over the fleet. How would humanity react to the arrival of an alien civilization? Despite the success of the mission, there were still many unknowns. The first sign came as they entered the solar system. A fleet of Earth ships approached, not with weapons armed, but with lights flashing in welcome. A cheer went up from the human crew members. "Earth welcomes the Zarkeli fleet," came the message from the lead Earth ship. "Your arrival marks a new chapter in human history." The next few days were a whirlwind of activity. As the fleet entered Earth orbit, news of their arrival spread across the globe. People gathered in city squares, eyes turned to the sky, marveling at the sight of the massive alien ships. A delegation of world leaders was assembled to officially welcome the Zarkali. The meeting took place on a specially prepared space station, neutral ground between Earth and the orbiting fleet. Dr. Elena Martinez, who had first decoded the Zarkeli distress signal, was chosen to make the first speech. As she stepped up to the podium, cameras broadcasting to billions across Earth and the Zarkeli fleet, she took a deep breath. "Today, we stand at the dawn of a new era," she began. "An era of interstellar cooperation and friendship. The Zarkeli came to us in their hour of need, and in helping them, we have helped ourselves. We have proven that the spirit of compassion and the drive to explore knows no boundaries. not even those of different worlds. Zolar spoke next, his words translated for the human audience. He expressed deep gratitude for Earth's help and offered to share Zarkali knowledge and technology in return. Together, he said, there is no challenge we cannot overcome, no frontier we cannot explore. As the official ceremonies concluded, the real work began. Teams of human and Zarkali scientists, engineers, and diplomats worked tirelessly to forge agreements, exchange knowledge, and plan for the future. The rescue team, hailed as heroes, found themselves at the center of a media storm. They told their stories again and again, emphasizing the bravery and ingenuity shown by both species. Zoe Patel, the engineer who had been crucial in integrating human and Zarkali technology, was offered a position leading the new interspecies research team. "I never imagined I'd be working with alien tech," she said in an interview. "But now, I can't imagine doing anything else." Dr. Maya Singh, moved by her experiences with the Zarkali, began a program to train human doctors in alien biology. "We need to be prepared," she explained. "This is just the beginning of our journey among the stars." Major Tom Chen, the skilled pilot who had guided them safely home, was selected to lead the first joint human-Zarkali space exploration mission. "There's so much out there to discover," he said, his eyes shining with excitement. "And now we have friends to discover it with." As for Colonel Sarah Hawkins, she found herself in a unique position. Respected by both humans and Zarkali, she was appointed as the first ambassador to the newly formed Interstellar Council. 6 months after the rescue, Hawkins stood on a platform in New York City. Behind her towered a monument. 2 intertwined spirals, one representing humanity, the other the Zarkali, reaching together towards the stars. As she prepared to unveil the monument, Hawkins looked out at the crowd. Humans and Zarkali stood side by side, a sight that would have seemed impossible not long ago. "We came together in a time of crisis," she said, her voice carried to every corner of the globe and to the Zarkali ships above. "We faced impossible odds, and we emerged victorious. But our greatest victory is not that we saved lives, as important as that is. Our greatest victory is that we have opened a door to a future brighter than any we could have imagined alone." With those words, she activated the monument. A beam of light shot from its peak, splitting into 2 intertwined beams that stretched up into the sky, a beacon of hope and unity visible from orbit. As cheers erupted from the crowd, Hawkins smiled. The rescue mission might be over, but humanity's greatest adventure was just beginning.